Welcome to another chapter of In the Keep podcast. I'm your very own prophet of the drowned god, the Motherlode. This show is all about the world of first-person shooters, their legacies, their lineage, and the people who keep that world turning. It is the will of the drowned god Cathala that our communities band together to frag and jib one another into oblivion for all eternity. Holy shit. Since the last batch of recordings that I was putting together to now, the world has changed a bit. Maybe you've noticed. I'm not going to talk too much about the you-know-what because I'm tired of hearing about it, and I'm sure you are too. Let's just take a little break and get that out of our minds for the duration of the show. But all that said, just first and foremost, I do want to say I love you all, and I hope you are taking care of yourselves and taking care of each other. Now is the time for us to just put our differences aside and take care of our fellow man. So, let's do that. That said, what is up? Welcome to another episode of In the Keep. I am super stoked about this one. Do want to say all the usual thanks, but I'm not going to list everything off as usual. But hey, make sure you're going and checking out inthekeep.com. It's got links to all our shit. You can buy our merch and all that stuff. You could become a supporter of whatever kind you want if you'd like to. If not, whatevs. But most of all, thank you to everyone who does support the show. And that's not just monetarily. That is also like just being a patron of the arts, liking, subscribing, sharing, telling people, putting it on your blog, whatever the fuck. It doesn't matter. However you do it. Run down the streets screaming Cathala. I don't care. Whatever you have to do to help out by just getting the word out there, because that's the main thing that, like independent content creators struggle with, in my opinion. I'll probably do a whole podcast. I think I'll do one eventually just about that particular thing. Like, the hardest thing for any independent content creator to do is get in front of people to get their material out there. So all I'm saying is the most important thing you can do is just listen to the show and also tell other people about the show. That's the best way to support. And I really, really appreciate everyone who does that. We all do. Everybody who works on the show. It's not just me. I'm just the guy with the microphone today. But, this is such a cool episode, guys. Got a chance to finally sit down with BigEyeGuy and get to catch up and everything. If you don't know who he is the proprietor of Arena Israel. He and I met at QuakeCon 2019 and just hit it off. Been talking a little bit ever since. Finally, hey, let's do a podcast. We actually did a podcast and then had to delete it because we were both not happy with the way it turned out. But it's a good thing because we actually, on the day that we decided to sit down and do this, who happened to be at Big Guy's house? None other than No IL. And if you guys don't know him, Noel, however you want to say it, just know he is an old school, Quake Live top level competitor. And I didn't even know any of this heading into the conversation. I was just like, hey, who the fuck is this guy? We got to sit down. We got to play a little Diabotical together, get warmed up. We get a feel for each other and everything on the three of us. And then sit down and have this amazing chat. Really enjoyed it. We're going to talk a little bit about, Arena Israel, what their plans are, the state of, I think this was recorded right after Diabotical hit closed beta. So they were just seeing it for the first time, and everything to do with just in general, what can we expect? What's a gamer's point of view about it? We get to talk with BigEyeGuy about his stuff, because on top of all this other crap I'm throwing at you, he's also a game developer who's specialized in different mobile titles, and we talk pretty in depth, I think, about the whole mobile gaming scene and what we can learn from it and take away from that and bring back to our little niche PC, what's the word I'm looking for, bubble that we live in. And I really enjoyed having the opportunity to get out of that and get some new perspective. Also going to talk about slot machines, but I'll let you guys just catch that in the conversation. Anyways, the music you're going to hear is by Igrek Simon. Glad to have some of his stuff back on the show. I'm a big fan of his. Go check him out on YouTube. But anyways, y'all, please enjoy the tunes. Let's stay safe. let's take care of each other, and let's get in the keep with No Ill and Big Eye Guy.
I'm known in the Quake community as No Ill or No IL, or it's been pronounced to various different ways. I used to play Quake Live very actively, quite competitively. I started with Quake 3, started playing that around 2008, and I was playing very actively until about 2013. And since then, I've just, I don't really have a good internet connection at home now, but whenever I get a chance to play with some friends, that's usually what I do. And nowadays, I do content arbitrage.
That's a big word.
Yeah.
My name is Yotam, known as BigEyeGuy or Beg as a short. I kind of run a thing called Arena Israel, which is a place for all Arena FPS Israel players to gather. I'll maybe tell more how that started later. I'm a game designer. I work at just a game studio making mobile games. Worked in some in the past. I just joined one recently, and we're doing like a year and a half project, really trying to nail a good casual mobile game, which is sort of like a new thing here.
So I find the mobile thing, I think we talked about this a bit recently, but like just the whole genre itself is so insane to me because it's the most popular thing in the world. Like everybody has a cell phone and most people play games on their phones, including like old grandmas and everything. It's like
It's not even including them. It's them including you. You are the add-on to the real players who are the grandmas, the mothers. It's really massive, and Israeli people being the startup nation, and trying to always do something business-wise. It's the market grew so much that people here couldn't ignore it.
Yeah. So what types of games are you actually working on? Like, what are you trying to create exactly, genre-wise?
Right now, we're doing. I'm working with a company called Jelly Button. They did games like Pirate Kings and Board Kings, which is kind of like you have a base. I'll make it really like short because there's not a lot to get into it. It's a really simple game. In short, I call it Mingle Up. It's basically you have some sort of a base. You build stuff, you progress. You have some sort of a mechanism based on luck, either a wheel or something of that nature, dice, and you can attack other players and they can attack you. That's the gist of it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's interesting because it kind of changes the way people think about how you can play games. Just having the touchscreen in general, like watching it over the past several years, like kind of develop as a genre. Things like Candy Crush are like super popular, or Angry Birds, and then you're starting to see people really take advantage of the touchscreen in the gameplay, or copying apps. Like if you saw that game, I believe it's called Reigns, where it's like a Tinder app.
Yeah.
It functions like a
The
Tinder
swipe,
app.
swipe left or right, kingdom
Yeah.
ruler sort of thing. Yeah.
It's like a super simple version of Civilization, but yeah, it's all you do is swipe left or right.
You hit it right on the head. Yeah, it's you get the same experience basically. In what you're able to do with a mobile game, you get the same experience. Because if you're playing a mobile game and think of Reigns, for example, yeah, it's vertical. It's not horizontal. It's for you hold it in one hand and you just play it as you go along with your business. It really ties into what you say, like using the platform, because you don't want a player on the mobile that's just on his way to work to now play Civilization with the skill trees and all that. He just wants to feel like he's ruling a kingdom, feel like he's steering a civilization, and that game achieves that in a wonderful way.
Yeah, and then there are other genres that, at least as of right now, just plain simple do not work on a phone without some sort of modification to it. Which most people realistically are not trying to turn their phone into a gaming system. They just want to have games that are convenient to go, as you said, like on the fly. While they're sitting on the couch, while they're on the bus going to work, or anything.
That's one aspect of mobile games. I just spent a month around my little brother, who's 22, and him and his friends are in this magical period called between the army and the next thing. Is basically you finish with the army, and you have no obligations. You're not out of college that you need to go get a job. You just went through the army, and so it's basically they can do whatever they want. And they sit around and they all have their phones out and they're playing Call of Duty together, multiplayer. And that's something really common, by the way. PUBG really did well, like on mobile. I don't think really we know what the boundaries is of mobile gaming still. It's just going to keep growing.
I think you're right. We're just going to continue to see it evolve over time. Like we're in the twilight of it. It feels like it's almost hard for me to remember like where the line is before I saw people doing it. But now as I get, as we get further and further into it, I think about the years that have gone by, and it's like, it hasn't been that long. It can't have been that long. This has happened in the, since I was a teenager into my early adulthood, and we're only at the very early brink of this. And who knows, like, before long, we might even not, are we even going to have cell phones? Are we going to have just like an implant in our eyeball or whatever that we just
We're going to have something. That's the bottom line.
We're going to play games no matter what they do. We're going to find a way to make games out of everything.
I wanted to ask a question, Yotam. I noticed, I'm not very into mobile gaming, but I've noticed online that like people, okay, but I noticed online like a lot of gamers have this antagonism towards mobile games, like so-called like hardcore gamers or PC gamers or console gamers, and I was just wondering what's your take on it and where it comes from, and if it's actually an obstacle for the mobile gaming industry.
Overall, it's not a bad move to make a mobile game if you're a big company. It's just how you present it. I think, and how meet the expectation. First of all, gaming audience is very harsh. I think it can really, he goes on both ends, really far into loving and really embracing the product and making it part of his life, i.e., New Blood and everything with Dusk and all that. And he's really all the way to the right, can really like take you down if you do a bad move. And I think companies like Blizzard with Diablo, if that was an added thing to a PC game, it would have been like a smash hit. But they were so out of touch. It's that what got people railing, I think. But it's not a bad move to make a mobile game as a big company. It's actually the smart move right now.
Well, they're like, why did Bethesda have to make a Commander Keen mobile game? That was like a big do you even have any idea who your audience is for that? For Commander Keen, and good on them for attempting it. And obviously, there's a market for mobile games, but like anything but take Commander Keen and turn it into this silly cartoon that
Yeah.
people that want to play Commander Keen are the same people who want to play Doom, and they don't want to play Doom on their mobile phone.
Yeah. Did you play Commander Keen when you were a kid alone?
No, honestly, no.
Well, I kind of grew up on that thing, really loving those games, and I see nothing in this new one. It's hard to say exactly where it was born of, like what was the catalyst for it, but it was probably bunch of business people trying to think what's the next thing to work on, and they have a list of IPs. And they just, because they can't really think creatively, they just took whatever was there and handled it really poorly, I think. And I didn't play the game, but so that's not fair saying. But just from looking at the game and the gameplay, it's easy to tell that their heart wasn't in it, I think.
Yeah.
It was a business.
I'm not going to say that I'm like PC Master Race kind of mind. I definitely don't play mobile games at all. Like I will not download one because it's not because I think they suck or like I'm against it fundamentally. It's because I don't want to be playing video games when I'm not at my computer. Like it's kind of the boundary I set for myself. It's like I shouldn't be doing that all day long every day. And I'm glad people do so that you can make a living.
Yeah. But it could also be a gateway to get a lot of people into, console or PC gaming, I think, if it's executed right,
Well, why do you think that? I'm curious because
my mom has a maid. She's been working for her, I think, like 33 years now. And every night to relax, she plays Bubbles on the computer, That's her fun. That's her fun time. And I'm pretty sure she started by playing it on mobile, and then probably one of her kids downloaded it for a PC for her. And I think basically you get a demographic that doesn't get to mingle much with gaming, and it basically gives you an opening to target this demographic that usually classically would not play video games. And I think that's interesting, and there's a lot of possibility regarding what you can do with that.
That's definitely interesting. It's something that BigEyeGuy will have to get into very briefly if you want. But like my grandmother plays slot machines on her phone all the time. She's obsessed, and there's no reward to this other than just she likes to gamble. She likes to go down.
There's all the rewards in the world. What are you talking about?
What are they?
Slot machines are magical.
Well, let's hear it.
It's the essence of all the good feelings you get, most of the good feelings you get in games in the simplest, dumbest form.
Well, first of all, what it's your like? Can you kind of just give our audience a brief idea of?
Oh yeah, so
where you come from here?
Right, I work right now in like more of a casual market, but I started out as a game designer for Slotomania, who it's I think one of the biggest, if not the biggest, slot mobile game in the world. And I was doing the content, basically the slot machines that you play in the game. That every couple of weeks you get a new slot machine. So I was part of the team, and later on managed the team that creates those slot machines for a little bit more than 2 years. And I got to from not understanding slot machines at all to becoming some sort of a player myself and really enjoying making them. Eventually, decided to move on from that. But it was a fun experience.
It's until you brought it up, I'd never even considered the idea that somebody who is a game designer creates slot machines. Every slot machine I've ever seen, somebody sat down and decided every little thing that was going to go on it. They had to do the math or create the machine. Back in the day, the machinery. Now it's all computer coded.
Yeah, and that's what we call it's mechanical slots and video slots.
Yeah. Something about it, like I feel like when it was mechanical, it felt like you had a chance. Whereas
Fair.
something about it being a computer makes people generally, obviously people still do it and that didn't deter them, but it makes people feel like the computer can cheat them more so than the machine could have before. It's so weird. Such a
Yeah, I
Doesn't
strange
think
make
psychological.
sense.
I
Yeah.
think if I had to draw the analogy to our world, it'll be mechanical slot players are maybe like Quake World players, and video slots and like maybe Quake 2, or if you want to go far, maybe Quake 3. Because some people like the tactile feeling of the drums spinning. There's a market for that specifically, and the video slots player, I think there's enough of them to, grow this industry. I think it's like $5 billion, if not more, right now. The industry in the world.
But
I think
say,
there's.
Tom, just a
Go
quick
ahead.
question. People who not physically play slot machines also find themselves downloading and playing slot machine games on mobile?
Yeah.
More often they play slot machines before, but some of them started playing on mobile. Most of them know what slot machines. They touched it somewhere in the casino, and then they go to the mobile app. Some of them first played it on the phone. I think places where you don't get a casino, like Turkey.
Really? Yeah.
And they like the slot machines. Going back to the bubbles. I was also part of a company making a lot of bubble games, and then you get people that don't have computers. A lot of Indians, like we're going back to what you said about the computer and mobile, how you separate the two words. Some people don't have the computer; all they have is mobile, so they play whatever there's on the mobile to play, and if it's slots or bubbles.
Yeah.
Yeah, Biloxi, Mississippi, when I was growing up, it's like an hour away from where we live. And, that was the big thing is like on the weekends, grandparents were going to the boats and they go down and they gamble all weekend long and come back. And, our college funds were gone and all that kind of thing. But that it was such a part of their culture. And so like at home, my grandmother would always have like not even before cell phones even were popular. She had like little handheld slot machines in the house, like even a mechanical machine. And then later we saw like little digital slot machines that she could just press. And then now it's just on her cell phone and she does it all the time, or like paints, things like that. So it's an interesting crossover between like that. That's a multi-generational thing that transitioned into video games.
Mm-hmm.
This is a game that has been played since the dawn of industry, basically in America.
It's one of the first like genres or whatever games. It's been existing well over 100 years, well before I don't know, any simple things like Pong, and the main thing about it is it's like the mechanism, the psychological mechanism is a variable reward is something that really pleases us as human, is to get something random. So you get that when you get loot drops in Diablo, or you can get that in slot machines. It's kind of that effect, and now we have fucking gambling in Counter-Strike, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing, but basically boiled down to its essence.
It's strange to me that people play it when there's no money involved. Like, yeah, I get why people sit at the casino and want to pull the lever because you might win some money, but when it's just on your phone, like you're probably spending money,
Yeah.
They're not playing to win. They're not playing. They are playing to win, but they all know that losing is part of it, and making money in a casual game, it's really like it's a side thing. They're more excited about what's happening right in front of their eyes. They don't care if the money is pixels. It can be pixels, but they like the experience of playing slots. You're not fooling them that they're not going to get money. They're there for the slot experience. And yeah, just some people just like specifically that.
So I have a question. So it's not necessarily about chasing that dopamine rush that you get with gambling on real money. Do you think it's something different that people find attractive about?
It's that on lower levels. I think playing with real money is different, but you have to understand that the money that they put in the game is real. So you kind of get that effect.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just start talking about Quake and Arena Israel and everything. And most importantly, this past weekend, we've been playing through the first, beta weekend of Diabotical. And I just kind of wanted to get everybody's take on like, how are we feeling so far?
I think
So-
Alon can start.
Yeah, I'll
I'm gonna
go
get a
first.
beer.
Coming from Quake VQ3 background, it feels very, very natural. I think the best thing the game has going for it is that, like, out of the gate, everything. Well, it is a bit buggy still at the moment, but in terms of like the game physics and the game mechanics, it all feels like top notch.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever played any other game that like straight out of the gate felt so good mechanically to play. And I think that's something great. I think aiming in it feels like it takes a bit more skill because of maybe the different hitboxes. It kind of could take maybe a place as like an aim trainer kind of game. I think that's a good direction. It could maybe try taking. And overall, I'm impressed. I mean, this isn't anything groundbreaking. Many people have tried to make what people call Quake clones before, but I do hope that with the two good studio behind it, and the Epic, the Epic launcher, and maybe some of their marketing budget behind it, that we could actually have a successful arena first-person shooter. I'm hopeful at the moment, and further than that, I will say that from what I've tried playing so far, I've very much enjoyed what I've seen.
We were playing the other day, and I had Alon here, who's like the best Quake Live player in Israel.
Out of like 3, yeah.
Yeah, but you competed on the highest level. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're probably one of the best Quake Live players, if not the best Quake Live player, or Quake 3, I think is similar enough in duel. And earlier, on the same day, I had another friend who was active when we used to play like in LAN parties, but really left Arena FPS and FPS behind. And watching them, both of them play, and how easily they just sat and everything felt comfortable, familiar, and natural. To someone who's I would say on maybe a master level, and someone who's like a low level, that sat down, and it looked like both of them understood immediately what was going on, and that was a good sign for me. And playing myself, I don't really care about the graphics and everything around it. They did a lot of smart choices there, but just examining how the game feels, and more importantly, the game design and the thought process that went behind the rules and the modes that they're trying, I have like full confidence in that team, and I know that this game is going to be good for sure. Successful, that depends, but if I had to bet, I will bet that it will be pretty successful.
A lot of people have said like, I don't like the aesthetic of the game. I don't like, and we're talking just like hardcore Quake people that are saying that. Other than that, I don't think it matters. I personally, again, if I were going to design my own arena shooter exactly the way I wanted it, I wouldn't pick, cartoony graphics like this. I would have something, with blood and guts, just because that's what I like.
Mm-hmm.
But from a business standpoint, it's the number one best thing they could have done. Just take everything that anybody could, anything that would stop a kid from picking up this game and becoming highly interested in it, or their parents preventing them from doing it, take that and throw it out of the window and just, go straight for the target audience here. And they've done that. And I also, like something you said earlier, Noah, is you said it wasn't anything groundbreaking. I think there are a few things that you could consider, if not groundbreaking, at least a general shift in what we're going to see. So like the way that the dual format is laid out, some of the game modes like Wipeout, I think in general. And by the way, as soon as they announced what Wipeout was, like on their stream, it was immediately like Warfork. We had it in no time. We just recreated it in Warfork. But I think that particular game mode is something really special, because the big thing that holds people back from CA, which is probably the most popular thing that we're going to see both with this game, but in general, is like that's what casual players like to play. Crazy that we just now are getting that in Quake Champions, but hey, whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like the dying and then sitting there and waiting. That's something we also see in other team games like CS:GO or whatever. Like dying and now I'm dead and I just have to wait. Sucks. Nobody likes that. Nobody wants to just sit there and spend most of their gaming time, especially not arena shooter players. They don't want to just sit there and wait. They want to feel involved, feel like they can contribute. And Wipeout, I feel like is no pun intended, wiping the floor with CA in my mind.
I agree completely. Sorry to jump in there alone. Like Clan Arena is fun. It's not suited completely for a fast-paced game like Quake. That's why it works in CS:GO because everything is tactical and slow. And if you die, you still, you're there. You're helping your friends. You can make call-outs. There's no call-outs, and everything is going so fast. You can die in an instant, and then you sit there. So I really like the Wipeout mode and how it's implemented so far. Touching on the aesthetics a little bit is I heard you guys talking before, and yeah, it's a business move. It's calculated. They want customization for the egg bots. I'm sure the egg bots will look better. I like them. They work. It doesn't matter right now. But the Overwatch thing that you said,
the HUD for sure.
Yeah, everything is Overwatch. The announcer, they're trying to bite on that tired market. Overwatch is really disappointing. I think is players, and there's a lot of people there that could move over, and that's a strategy. And with Epic, there's a chance there that it will really click together.
Yeah, and Epic, crazy as it is, they've dealt with arena shooters before as a company. Like they've dealt with Unreal, and now they have this studio who's willing to just go all the way in on developing it. They're not like, from what I understand, Epic is pretty much done with UT. I don't think that's ever going to actually go any further than it already has.
Yeah.
I would like to see, just for the sake of, I know a lot of people feel very passionately about it. I'd like to see that, but it seems like this game will kind of just take over everything that had to do with that in their mind. Yeah. And if they can really implement it correctly, having an arena shooter, a high quality arena shooter, free to play on the Epic Store, where kids, go to get, if I was 10 years old and I played, Fortnite or whatever, but I'm always looking for like something that I can get, and your mom won't let you buy anything, and then, oh, here's a free game. It doesn't matter what it is, they'll probably try it out. And if this could be a gateway at all for any young people to get into arena shooters, no matter what happens with Diabotical in the end, this is a net win for us as a community.
For sure. And I think for Epic, well, Tom, when we were talking yesterday, kind of made this point that it allows them to bring in a slightly older audience than they usually get to the Epic Game Store. Because considering probably most of people who, not the Epic Game Store, but the Epic Launcher, do it to play Fortnite, that basically leaves you with a community of a bunch of kids, right? And I think with a game like Diabotical, the target audience is a bit older. And that could actually serve Epic Games very well, allowing them, entry into a slightly older player base. Yeah.
So here's something that is going to kind of harken back to me when I was trying to say I'm not a master race kind of guy. This might make me sound like an asshole, but
no.
So I downloaded the Epic Launcher a while back to get UT.
Mm-hmm.
But then I felt so dirty for having it on my computer because it's associated with Fortnite that I got rid of the launcher. I was like, I don't want this on my PC. And I would never have reinstalled it if not for Diabotical.
Same, dude.
Exactly. I spent the whole day yesterday troubleshooting some fucking stupid thing with the Epic Launcher just to get Diabotical. And, all those free games that they give, I couldn't give a fuck. Really. My house is Steam right now. I don't care. I don't want to move. I'm there. I'm not speaking as like, I'm speaking as the customer. I know what I feel as a customer, and that's exactly I think what a lot of people feel. And Diabotical felt like a good enough reason for me to install the Epic Launcher again.
If I'm voting with my dollar, I just want to open up one app and click on the game I want to play and move on with my life. I don't want to have to like, oh, what launcher are we in, boys, and all that. Like, fuck that. That sucks. But hey, if it gets me to Diabotical, that's a good thing about Diabotical. It says a lot about the game in general that we're willing to go through all that trouble to play this game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
we spent so much time yesterday fucking trying to set this thing up, but we knew that okay, we're gonna get our game in and have fun.
Yeah. No, I'm curious from a high level player of your stature. Like, what are some of the
Yeah.
things that you've observed, like hitbox wise, or just in general about the weapons and things that are kind of on your mind that you'll be looking for?
Kind of hard for me to make that point, especially since I haven't played much, and when I have, it was mostly like Rocket Arena with Yotam. I
Mhm.
only got to play a few minutes, give or take, of the arena game mode. But the weapons do feel very good, and I do feel that the egg bots. It kind of reminds me, if you ever played Kovac's Aim Trainer, it
Mhm.
kind of reminds me of playing that. And I think that's actually a very good aspect of this game, that maybe it could kind of like become this niche game that, like competitive FPS gamers from other games play in order to, train their aim or their general combat abilities. And I think that's definitely like a market niche that it could fill in. But the weapons, they do feel very good. From the rocket launcher, which, I know some people are not completely satisfied with the weapon sounds, but so far I've really been enjoying it. The LG feels great. The rocket launcher also feels very consistent. The shotgun feels powerful. It reminds me a bit of like what's it called? The flank weapon from UT.
Yeah,
The flank weapon. Yeah, yeah. Definitely has a very good shotgun. I,
flak,
flak.
FLAK. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I think the railgun is a bit too weak at the moment. The 60, 70, 80. I think they need to, increase the damage a bit.
but
But
can I ask you about that? Because you're saying that from the Quake perspective. In the game modes that you played, did you feel like it was too low?
a bit, yeah. I
Okay.
felt it's a bit unusable with at least with 60, 70 damage. I think it's a bit too low. I think you need the railgun to be at around 80, 90 for it to be more viable. I think even in Reflex, when they set it to 80, but with like longer reload time, the railgun didn't really play as much of a vital role as it did in Quake 3 or even CPM. But overall, the feeling is very good, I would say.
I think if I can interject there, you're primarily a dual player, as am I, and I
Yeah.
feel like this is something that has been I don't even call it an issue necessarily, just a fact of life throughout the history of Quake, and especially recently with Quake Champions.
Hmm.
The weapons are all balanced in an effort to make duel as perfect as it can be, and then the other game modes kind of have to like work around that.
Hmm.
So in duel, I think it serves to have a super powerful railgun, like an 80, 90 damage railgun.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
because you're constantly rotating items, like you're playing for the items in duel
Yeah.
essentially, and trying to do as much damage as you can in between them to corner your opponent and then take them out.
Hmm.
I think the weaker railgun makes more sense in a game mode like Wipeout
Mm.
or in CA, because a lot of what you get in CA is just these insanely skilled movement players who just use railgun. They only play with the
Yeah.
railgun and they just wipe the floor with you because they're good at that. I think that this nerfing of it, at least maybe they change it in duel. Maybe they scale it to the mode. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But right now, for if you're balancing the game towards Wipeout, I think it makes sense to have a weaker railgun like this.
And the concept is cool that like it goes up in damage with more shots that you hit. And I
Mhm.
think I heard somewhere that like if you hit 3 shots, you get like a rail jump function after that. I'm not sure if this is verified. I heard it on some stream, but that idea is also very cool because I guess it would allow you to use the rail in a more aggressive manner and not just as a very like defensive weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
I agree with you completely, Ty. And this goes back to what I said about the confidence I have in their game design decision. This is one of them. I think I didn't know about this, and then Alon told me this when we were playing yesterday, and I was immediately like, my brain was, oh shit, they did it. They're trying new stuff, and I think they figured stuff out from all the playtesting. For me, it feels good immediately. I could be
yeah.
wrong about how it will play out, after the meta changes and people know the maps and whatever. But I think they know what they're doing with their game design. I really think so. Yeah, and I think I don't know what Too Good is doing in that process, but I have a feeling he has a heavy influence.
Yeah, it's an interesting take because they're not trying to. We keep using the word Quake clone. I don't think they're trying to make a Quake clone. I think they're trying to take the best aspects from an objective point of view of all of arena shooters in general and balance them into one kind of cohesive experience. We have a dodge mechanic similar to UT. We have, you know, we have rocket jumping and VQ3 movement similar to Quake. Like it's not by mistake. That's these guys are thinking about what things do I like and not like about these different games that we can implement, and make into one big hodgepodge that will work for everybody. And also we're seeing the Weebles, which are, I hate saying that word. It just sounds childish, but whatever, call it whatever you want.
It's so British to call something Weebles. I have to say that.
Yeah.
It's the balls you throw?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Pokeballs, you throw them out and smoke screen, wheezing comes out and makes a smoke screen.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to be an interesting part of the gameplay too. And I struggled with that when I first started. I was like, I'm not used to this. It's not quite on the level of like an ability in Quake Champions or anything, but it does fundamentally change gameplay, especially in CA when you have like a heal ability that you can kind of, hey, I'm throwing down my heal and then everybody has to gang around it, and try to heal. But also it gives away your location. If you throw it behind a corner, you still see the bubble and then people will rush that area.
Yeah, that for sure is a cool function. I'm not as sure about the other Weebles. Like, I don't, even the purple one, for example, I haven't really completely understood what it does yet. But the healing function in Wipeout is very cool. And and it adds just enough depth to a game like CA that it doesn't overcomplicate it, and it's still, simple enough for new players, and still adds a new mechanism to it that develops, helps it evolve. So I think it is a very cool feature too.
It's also used right now as like a blue shell mechanism. It's something that helps you either remain gain a lead on someone that's in front of you. I think if you die, you get one, something like that. So it's kind of like a blue shell mechanic that helps you stay in the game.
So with all that said, though, BigEyeGuy talked recently about Arena Israel and what our plans are for that in the future and how you're gonna potentially try to put on some tournaments. But with this game, does it change kind of your perspective on what to prioritize?
Well, first thing you see is people are active in Discord again. There's a complete silence, and then people are like interested, and we played a little bit. So there's something to do there. I'll start by saying, our community is really small.
How many people exactly?
It's hard to really say. I would say active around 10 maybe, but we're not really playing together. There's more players, but they're out there. So yeah, it does change plans a little bit. Not change, but add some stuff. I think we were pretty inactive last year. 2008, we did like 3 tournaments. One of them was open to European players, and there was cash prize that we offered. That was awesome. But last year we weren't really active. I think this year we will more like focus on maybe building the community and having like weekly or monthly get-togethers where you, in a LAN settings where you play sort of like a dojo or whatever you want to call it.
I think it's kind of similar to the way the Keep works. Is we're trying to allow anyone come join as long as you're not an asshole. That's the biggest thing. Is I'm not dealing with assholes or who are. It's very common in the culture to kind of dismiss players who suck, but the vast majority of the time it's like they suck because they're new and they don't know what they're doing. Yeah. And people are like, oh, this guy sucks. Let's kick him out of our lobby. I'm like, no, you need to take that guy under your wing, whoever it is, as long as they're not, being a troll, and just do everything you can to make them want to continue to play, because that every single person who joins and gets kicked from a party and never picks the game up again is a detriment to us. It will only hurt our genre in the future if we don't embrace new people playing the game.
And, give assholes a second chance too, I think. Don't be so quick to dismiss them, because, they could end up being cool people in the end.
For sure.
Are you saying that as a former asshole?
No, I was actually always a very well-mannered player, I think. I'd mostly rage at myself, not the other people, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've known some people who, like, at first, the first few times I played against them, I thought, oh God, what an asshole. And, eventually within time, I actually developed good relationships with them. And we eventually became, online buddies
Cool.
for whatever amount of time it was. So yeah, just not be so quick to rule people out.
I agree.
I really think that we stand to gain a lot by like embracing the game in general. Like Diabotical will definitely bring a lot of new people in, and even if they start off playing Diabotical and then they find out like, oh, but you guys play Quake Live or you guys play Warfork or what other they might have never even heard of a lot of these games, and
Yeah, for sure.
they may end up finding a game that's perfect for them even if Diabotical isn't. So I'm interested to see how you guys leverage that to the benefit of Arena Arena Israel.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't think it's gotten like traction yet from people from Diabotical who know about Arena Israel, right? It's just like the community that's already existing is playing more Diabotical now, so it kind of revived it to a degree. Yeah.
Our community, it started more or less from a Facebook page. It was, Facebook kind of changed in the last 5 years, but there was this group called Quake Israel, and I got on it because I wanted to play Quake again, and I didn't have people to play with, and I started a Rocket Arena server, and I wanted people to play, so I found this group and I posted there, and then I found people that I played with maybe like 10 years ago in that group, and all those other people that I know from the community from way back in the day, and something happened where this person, I don't remember his name, it doesn't matter, flooded the group. He just invited all his friends and families and aunts to this group. And then he started posting spam about the songs that he basically sabotaged this group to oblivion. And that was the only relic kind of left from the Quake community in Israel. And it had, like, from my perspective, Israeli Quake legends, people that died already. And that group was important to me. And what happened was, from all that spamming, people left and it kind of thinned down. And then the person that was admin gave me the adminship and left the group. And I started cleaning it up. I made some changes. I kicked that person, of course, and all his aunts and stuff. And we started like talking about, okay, we're playing Quake Champions. What are we going to do? And we from there grew to a Discord group, and we ran the tournaments. And we all like put Israel flags on our Quake Champions flag pack. And anyone that is from Israel, we kind of try to recruit him. That was double-edged swords because you go there finding other Israelis to play with, and then you get like anti-Semitic shit because you have an Israeli flag.
Yeah.
So we kind of grew from that. That's the basic history of it, and we had some T-shirts and stuff like that with the tournament. Didn't really like pan out amazing, but we had fun and we learned a lot of stuff. We streamed on Twitch tournaments. It was a good time.
Yeah. I'll just add that I used to play a bit in like the old Quake 3 Israeli community, which had actually at some point a decent size. I mean, there were, probably at the beginning, at the early 2000s, probably hundreds of Quake 3 players in Israel. And, I started playing a bit later, but there was still some of that community left. And it was very interesting. It kind of got broken down. There was like the Russian Israelis, so they had their own section. And then you had these Cherkessian dudes from like up north, from Kfar Qasim, and they had, another like 7-8 players, and they had their own little community. And yeah, it was actually like we used to sometimes like play TDM against them. And I remember they had this clan called SS, to kind of like piss off the Jewish Israeli community. And
I'm sure everyone understands the reference of the SS, or maybe they do.
a Nazi, yeah.
Super Smooth, think
Super smooth. Yeah.
super smooth.
yeah.
And yeah, it was good times. It felt very. It didn't feel. What's the word? The Israeli Quake community definitely had a lot of phases. You had great players like Alien, who died of a car crash back in the day, and you
Yeah.
had one dude who moved to the U.S. to pursue a pro Quake 3 career back
Really?
in the early 2000s. Yeah.
What was that? What was his nickname?
I forgot his name, but I was talking with Raced, who's a Turkish Quake 3 player who also lived in the US for a bit and used to play in like the early competitive North American CTF scene. And I know he was a part of that Israeli dude. And you used to actually have quite a few skilled players. And also with a lot of Russians immigrated into Israel over the last 10, 20 years. And, with them came a lot of great, ex-Quake players from the Soviet countries.
Yeah, it's basically their billiard halls is the Quake lands.
Yeah, but I remember I tried to like kind of revive the Quake community when Quake Live came out and kind of get everyone to switch from Quake 3 to Quake Live. But it was very difficult because we didn't have local servers for Quake Live, and connections have improved recently. But back then, you were lucky if you got 80, 90 ping to a European server. And I actually talked with people from id Software quite a bit, try to get like a master Israeli server up, but that unfortunately wasn't a big success. But yeah, the Israeli Quake community, it's an interesting story that I think has yet to be told.
Yeah, I was out of Israel for all of that. I think I came back 2014.
Yeah.
You were studying abroad in Australia at that point, or
Yeah, that too. I was out of the country. I worked in cruise ships for a little bit, and then I went to Australia.
yeah. So with all that we've just laid out, I do want to kind of, maybe this is not the most appropriate way to approach it, but I'm wondering, since you're calling it, Arena Israel, does that exclude players from other, countries from participating? And
That's a very good point, and I've been really thinking about that because I feel like that name is limiting. And again, it was the history of it is because of the Facebook group, not really as something that we really put thought to. Of course, none of us are like against any players from other countries. We had players from Europe, and I think I even wrote a Reddit post on our tournament, on one of the tournaments, and I specifically said that anyone is invited from the Palestinian territories and stuff like that. I really don't give a shit where you're from, what's your ideology. If you want to play a game with me, we can play games. If we can become friends from playing games, that's awesome. But let's just play. I don't care.
yeah, it's like gaming without borders is kind of nice. That might end the conflict there. Just like, hey, we all play games together. I'm not gonna fucking shoot that guy. It's great. He's my buddy.
Yeah, for sure. Like I made a lot of friends playing Quake in Israel from, like different social and, racial backgrounds that I would probably never get to interact with, be it
Yeah.
otherwise. With a bunch of Cherkessians from fucking Falkama who all ended up being really cool people.
Yeah.
And I even passed by there one day and said hi to a few of them. But yeah, that for sure was a unique and interesting facet about the Israeli Quake community. I do think it makes sense to do tournaments that are only relevant to Israeli players, especially if you're trying to, form a strong local community. So I think it makes sense to, make things that are only for the local player base. But yeah, I mean, it definitely is a fair question to ask.
So with that said, when you guys do inevitably plan another event, are you going to kind of just like, hey, this is an Israeli, or would you maybe do like Israeli only events and then also like another event that's like open to?
No, I think we're gonna do some sort of rebranding, either to something really generic or to something that is really clear on who's involved. Facebook page is the Facebook page. I don't care running a page that's only for Israelis, but the tournaments and activities, I want to make sure everyone feels welcome. Yeah. So it's still the news. I don't really know like what are we going to do, but it's definitely something we're thinking about. And if we are going to go again and be like active, then we're going to do some changes with that, I think. Specifically, what I'm looking at is when we did the last big tournament that we did. It was kind of before what's the name, Rocket Jump Arena, right? You know Rocket Jump Arena, Ty?
Yeah.
It was before they started, and when they started, it really made sense to me that
Rocket Jump Zone.
Rocket Jump Zone, sorry. And I participated in the tournament, and they're doing it really actively. And it really made sense to me that, yeah, they're doing it for European players. We should do it for European players. The only issue is technically there's no Middle East server. So, like, why should we do anything Middle East when we are actually playing a European server? Let's just do a European thing. And Middle Eastern players, come along.
I think it's interesting because back in the day, ping was a very limiting factor, and then the Quake community had to kind of be this kind of like microcosmos within an already niche game. But nowadays, when we're able to get much better ping to European servers, it definitely opens up the possibility.
Similar to fighting games, they can't play online; they got to meet up. Really strong communities.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, do you have any like plugs or social media things that you'd like to get out before we wrap this up?
Well, you can follow Arena Israel on Facebook. I post there sometimes. We will keep people updated. We post some memes and some other stuff. You can follow me on Twitter, I guess. Wilson Yotam, or just search for BigEyeGuy. I'm trying to get into the whole boomer shooter community. I really like what's going on there. I'll use this chance to say thanks to 004 from ID for hooking us up with the Quake Challenger League, helping us open the Challenger League for Israeli players. He really responded quickly for our requests and helped us there.
That was super cool of him to do that, as a matter of fact. I forgot that you told me he did that. No? Anything? You got Twitter?
I don't have any.